Well, welcome to Climate Change Action, presented, of course, by the League of Women Voters of White Bear Lake area. I'm Ketty. For those of you who don't know me yet, I am a newer member to the League, and of course, Fern, our illustrious program director, and Stephanie, our publicity director, are also presenting here today. We're so glad that you would join us for this important topic. If you have questions as we go through the presentation today, please put them in the chat. We'll also have time for questions and discussion at the end. For those of you who might not be familiar with Zoom, there is a mute button, and next to that is a little caret arrow. From there, you can adjust your audio settings. The button next to that allows you to start and stop your video. That is also where you will find your chat button, which will open up the chat window. And then in the top right corner, you'll see an option for views. We recommend using gallery views so that we can all continue to see one another as we go through this today. There's also a fun little reactions button. This lets you send emojis onto the screen if you want to express something without kind of stopping the flow of the presentation. So we are going to get started today with a quick little quiz. One quiz question. So please put your answers in the chat. We're going to have a few of these questions that will pop up periodically. So our first question is, which of the following is a greenhouse gas? A, carbon dioxide, B, methane, C, water vapor, or D, all of the above? Put what you think is the answer in the chat. Okay. A and B, I'm seeing D, B, D. Okay. The answer is D, all of the above. Now, greenhouse gases can be a result of natural occurrence or human activity. And these gases include carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, nitrous oxide, and ozone. Fluorinated gases are also considered to be greenhouse gases. So what greenhouse gases do is they work like a heat trapping blanket, which makes the Earth habitable as long as that balance remains in effect. But because human activities have increased emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, it's gone beyond what the Earth can support, resulting in climate change. So if we look at where greenhouse gases are coming from in the United States, the vast majority of emissions, 79%, is carbon dioxide. Methane's at 11%, nitrous oxide at 7%, and fluorinated gases at 3%. However, what you can't see in this chart is that methane has more than 80 times the warming power of carbon dioxide for the first 20 years that it reaches the atmosphere. So it's actually methane that is setting the pace for warming in the near term. At least 25% of today's global warming is driven by methane from human actions. That being said, carbon dioxide still has the longest effect and remains the greenhouse gas with the most overall impact on climate change. So where are these emissions coming from? In the United States, transportation is 27%, electrical power is 25%, industry is 24%, commercial and residential land use is 13%, and agriculture is 11%. However, in Minnesota, according to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, fossil fuel combustion is responsible for most carbon dioxide emissions. The majority of fossil fuels used today are generating electricity and fueling vehicles. However, animal agriculture is responsible for the most methane emissions in Minnesota, and the anaerobic decomposition of organic material, composting, also emits methane. Okay, another quiz. Which of the following are consequences associated with climate change? A, the ice sheets are declining, glaciers are in retreat, and our oceans are more acidic than ever. B, more extreme weather like droughts, heat waves, and hurricanes. C, global sea levels are rising at an alarmingly fast rate, 6.7 inches in the last century alone and going higher. Or D, all of the above?
All of the above.
You got it. The answer is D, all of the above. All of these are problems that are associated with climate change. And the majority of scientists agree that many of these effects are caused by humans contributing to the greenhouse effect. Extreme weather events, droughts, heat waves, and rising sea levels are already having devastating effects, especially on the most vulnerable countries and communities. Okay, so the Paris Climate Agreement. The Paris Climate Agreement is a legally binding international treaty on climate change. It was adopted by 196 parties at the UN Climate Change Conference, COP21 in Paris on December 12, 2015. And the treaty has three main points. First and foremost, to limit the average global temperature increase to less than 2 degrees centigrade, or 35.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and achieve net zero emissions by mid-century. 2, to enhance resilience and adaptation to climate impacts that are definitely going to occur. And 3, to align the financial flows in the world with these objectives. Now, when the agreement was signed, scientists believed that 2 degrees centigrade was the largest increase in global temperature that we could experience without causing catastrophic change. But more recently, the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is indicating that just crossing the 1.5 degree centigrade threshold risks letting loose far more severe climate change impacts, including more frequent and severe droughts, heat waves, and rainfall. So to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade, greenhouse gas emissions must peak before 2025, so 2 years from now, and decline 43% by 2030. So we're really kind of at that danger zone right now. So, and looking at Minnesota, we are already feeling the effects of climate change here. Minnesota has warmed 3 degrees Fahrenheit between 1895 and 2020. Winter warming is even more pronounced, especially in northern Minnesota, where it is already affecting the ice fishing season and winter tourism. So this map illustrates the warming trends since the beginning of the 20th century. And you can see that it's northern Minnesota that is really feeling those effects more than southern Minnesota. This is looking at the daily average minimum temperature during winter. We are also getting wetter. Annual precipitation has increased by an average of 3.4 inches. And that is especially pronounced down in southeast Minnesota. So on the left here is a map of Minnesota representing nights less than 0 degrees Fahrenheit between 1981 and 2010. You can see there's at least 45 nights a year that we're dropping below zero at night. On the right is where our current path is taking us in 20 to 40 years, which should be a climate that is similar to that of central Iowa. Minneapolis will be like Des Moines in 20 to 40 years. And if they don't peak by 2025 and decline that 43% by 2030, by the end of the century, Minnesota's climate will be similar to Missouri. So as things go, it's getting faster and faster. So we can't ignore it. It is real, and we know how to fix it. So that is always, the benefit there. We know how to fix it. Okay, quiz time again. What can you do to help fight climate change? Divest from fossil fuel companies. A. B. Engage yourself in the science behind climate change. C. Vote for political candidates who will advocate for climate-related legislation and policy improvements. Or D. All of the above. And I see them coming in. The answer again is D. And also with these important steps, adding your voice to the issues surrounding climate change, investing in clean energy companies, and taking personal actions to reduce your impact on the planet are also great steps. Francis Beneke, the former president of the National Resource Defense Council, said, "I have long understood that climate change is not only an environmental issue. It is a humanitarian, economic, health, and justice issue as well." And now we'll turn things over to Fern.
I have to unmute myself, sorry. League of Women Voters US has a position on climate change. They announced this position in The National Board announced this position in January 2019. The position states that League believes climate change is a serious threat facing our nation and planet. The League believes that an interrelated approach to combating climate change is necessary to protect public health and defend the overall integrity of the global ecosystem, including through energy conservation, air pollution controls, building resilience, and promotion of renewable resources. And the position continues that League supports climate change, climate goals and policies that are consistent with the best available climate science, and that will ensure a stable climate system for future generations. Individuals, communities, governments must continue to address this issue while considering the ramification of their decision at all levels, local, state, regional, national, and global. This one position of our National League can be used to lobby all levels of government. All levels of League can use the same position. There's not a separate position for Minnesota or anything. They're all using the national position on this. Combating climate change is a high priority for League. So to help League members keep up with the latest developments, the State League formed a climate change task force. And much of today's presentation was either derived from the task force meetings or from their website. And anybody in League can join this climate change task force. There's links to subscribe found on the State League's website. It will be found at the end of this presentation that will download to our own website. So there'll be a chance for you to join if you would like. If you join, that doesn't mean you have to attend all the meetings. It's just that you will be informed and have the link for each meeting. The meetings are held once a month. First Wednesday of the month, 9:30 to 11. There's about 210 members right now that have joined, and each call has about 25 or 30 members that usually attend, and the members are from throughout the state. So having a Zoom meeting is perfect on this. So what does the task force do? Well, during the legislative sessions, they give a legislative updates. They talk about what bills are moving through the committees and the status of the bills. They talk, there's educational topics. So they get speakers, guest speakers often to talk about a topic that you might not be familiar with. One of our guest speakers' topic was on extended producer responsibility in packaging, which I'll be talking a little bit more about later. Also, leagues share what they're doing, so that's interesting. And then there's reports of special events or meetings that people have gone to. And for instance, one of our members went to COP27 in Egypt. So this was very fascinating, the report on COP27 in Egypt. The task force member's name is Lee Morgan, and he was also an observer for League of Women Voters US, and the National League did help him gain entrance to the conference. The Conference of Parties 27, or COP27, was held at Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, last November 8th through the 20th, and it was a huge meeting. There were more than 190 countries, more than 110 heads of state, including President Biden. Okay. President Biden, and also there were 35,000 people in attendance. So, so it was a really huge meeting. And these meetings started in 1979. And like Ketty said, that the Paris Agreement, which is famous, was the COP21 meeting. So COP26, the promises that were made, well, you know, the group that are supposed to be achieving the greenhouse gas reductions, they're not quite achieving everything that they had set up to do last time. But the goals for the COP27 were to close the gap between promises and implementation, and they did get an implementation commitments and to close the gap between promises and implementation, and US signed it like on the last day, or maybe the day after everything closed down. Another thing that was very interesting was that Lee Morgan, on his way home from this conference, stopped at the World Cup soccer games. World Cup soccer games were being held at Qatar, and Qatar happens to be the country that has the highest per capita greenhouse gas emission in the world. And if you remember, these soccer games were held in November. They're usually held in the summer, and they were held in November so it would be cooler. Qatar deals with their extreme temperature in their country by migrating out of their country in the summer, being nocturnal, and they also have air conditioning everywhere. So they had air conditioners indoors and outdoors in open air stadiums, along the pedestrian walkways. Well, I guess Minnesota has portable heaters. Qatar has portable air conditioners.
There, I'm back. I'm in. Okay, I'm Stephanie. And just, we wanted to get into environmental justice a little bit because it's a huge topic in climate change. Environmental justice is really important in those discussions. In the US and around the world, climate change affects people of color and disadvantaged communities disproportionately. The DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion lens, or way of looking at something, is critical for understanding and decision-making. The environmental justice lens, if you will, if we can follow that metaphor just a little more, works with DEI with respect to development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. The same, if you recall from last month, the same red line communities we were looking at there in, as we were talking about the book, are often places that have fewer trees, less green space, hotter temperatures, less access to safe and adequate drinking water, or healthy foods, all contributing to poorer physical and mental health, inadequate transportation, living wage jobs, and a variety of other livable community parameters. According to the EPA, environmental justice will be achieved when everyone enjoys the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards and equal access to the decision-making process to have a healthy environment in which to live and learn. And towards that end, instituted a new program. It hasn't been around very long. The federal government is looking through the DEI lens with the adoption of Justice 40 initiative, Executive Order 14008, which has established a federal goal to ensure that at least 40% of federal climate investments in covered programs go directly to frontline communities most affected by poverty and pollution. The EPA announced $100 million for environmental justice grants, the largest amount ever offered by the agency, to help underserved and overburdened communities across the country. Applications, they're in the application phase of this right now. They're due by April 10th of this year. And then this is, there's a few other things that tie into this through the President's Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the American Rescue Plan. The federal agencies are making historic levels of investment to advance environmental justice. The investment will help confront decades of underinvestment in disadvantaged communities and bring some of those critical resources to communities that have been overburdened by legacy pollution, things that have been around for a long time, and environmental hazards. Let's flick this over. A little bit more on this Justice 40. What's a covered program then? Is a federal government program that falls in the scope of the Justice 40 initiative because it includes investments that can benefit disadvantaged communities across one or more of the following 7 areas. So the first one there is, as you can see, there is climate change. They have a list of parameters that fall in that category. Clean energy is the next one, and energy efficiency, putting up solar panels, variety of other things could be part of that. Clean transit, I know our own Met Council is working on some of that with more hybrid and electric buses. Affordable and sustainable housing and training and workforce development. We need people to work on these projects too and gain skills that would translate into full-time jobs. Remediation and reduction of legacy pollution. We still have brownfields. We have a variety of other things, lead pipes, lead paint, a variety of other things that are problematic. And of legacy pollution. And then the development of critical clean water and wastewater infrastructure. So that includes the lead pipes just mentioned, and a few other things. So I think that's it on that one.
Okay, so in Minnesota, in December of 2019, Governor Walz established the Climate Change Sub-Cabinet and Advisory Council. And this sub-cabinet is made up with executives from 15 state agencies, departments, and boards. And last September, they released a revised and updated climate action framework, which kind of sets the vision of how the state will prepare for climate change, as well as immediate and near-term actions which must be taken to achieve the goal for a carbon neutral, resilient, and equitable Minnesota. So that's the 3 big goals in this, we'll be carbon neutral, we'll be resilient, and we'll be equitable. So the state is looking at that environmental justice factor as well. From there, they kind of broke it down into the 6 main goal areas that they want to work on. Clean transportation, to connect and serve all people through a safe, equitable, and sustainable transportation system. Climate smart, natural, and working lands, so enhancing climate benefits by absorbing and storing carbon, reducing emissions, and sustaining resilient landscapes. Resilient communities, which is providing each Minnesota community with tools to plan for and become resilient to its unique climate impacts, not just a one-size-fits-all, this is your solution type situation. Clean energy and efficient buildings, so to expand the use of carbon-free energy and create healthy, comfortable buildings that are cheaper to operate and produce and pollute less. Healthy lives and communities, protecting the health and well-being of all Minnesotans in the face of climate change, and a clean economy. So a thriving, carbon-neutral economy that produces goods and services with environmental benefit and equitably provides family-sustaining job opportunities. So Clean Energy Economy Minnesota recently released their 2022 Minnesota Energy Fact Sheet, and we are definitely heading in the right direction. Since 2005, greenhouse gas emissions in Minnesota have declined 45% compared to 35% nationally. We are also #1 in the Midwest for energy efficiency. Zero carbon power continues to be the majority of Minnesota's electricity at 52% in 2021, which includes wind, solar, hydroelectric, and biomass, compared to the national average of 39%. Renewable technologies provided 28% of our power generation in 2021. And over the last decade, renewable generation has risen 60% and accounts for 81% of all new power generating capacity built during that time. And new legislation has set even higher standards.
So the Climate Change Task Force, we descended on the Capitol to lobby for the future. And that was part of Climate Day at the Capitol on January 25th. And there were quite a few other groups besides the League of Women Voters, and we rallied for support of the 100% clean energy bill. And I'm still wearing my t-shirt. I haven't taken it off since. No, that's not true. But anyway, I was part of this group, and I met with both State Senator Heather Gustafson and State Representative Breon Curran, who I'm pictured here with. And they were both planning on voting for the 100% clean energy bill. So I didn't have a lot of arm twisting to do. And 100% clean energy is now the law. It's a really big legislative win. It was signed into law February 7th. And what this law does is that it raises Minnesota's renewable energy standards and creates a new carbon-free standard that would require Minnesota public utilities to produce 100% carbon-free electricity by 2040. The bill defines renewable energy as solar, wind, hydropower, biomass, and hydrogen, and nuclear power is defined as carbon-free. There are intermittent goals, 80% carbon-free by 2030, 90% by 2035, and 100% by the 2040. And there's also some safeguards to ensure marginalized communities can benefit and are not harmed by the 100% clean energy transition. And it prioritizes equitable development of clean energy and the growth of local union jobs. Okay, the state league and the climate change task force, there are many legislative priorities. First of all, to improve government transparency, any bill or bonding project, we think it requires a climate action or climate impact analysis. And in this analysis, any bonding bill or need to record how much increase or decrease of carbon emissions, and also include global warming impact. There's many bills that are at the legislature with this type of language. Another priority is to provide technical and financial support for communities impacted by climate change, including an environmental justice component. So there are a bill in the House and in the Senate, and it is moving through committee. So it's possible there might be something that comes out on this topic. Another priority for the State League and our climate change task force is to transition to a zero waste economy. And this includes supporting, reducing or eliminating PFAS. And as you know, PFAS is forever chemical, the polyfluoroalkyl substance. And basically this compound, it's not degraded in the environment, but it had been found to be useful in so many things. It was found in, they used it in nonstick cookware, water repellent clothing, firefighting foams. And so right now, there's probably at least 10 bills going through the legislature on this, and some have moved through committee, so that it's possible that we'll have some bills on this. There's some of the bills ban it from different like firefighting foams. Some of them say that it should be used for only non-essential use. Another one to transition to a zero waste economy is right to repair. I don't know if you've ever had a cell phone where you're not able to replace the battery. Well, that's the kind of thing that this bill would probably prevent happening. And then also extended producer responsibility, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But the State League has partnered with Minnesota Environmental Partnership. And so any bill that the Minnesota Environmental Partnership supports, League supports also. Okay, a little bit more about the extended producer responsibility. Basically, plastic pollution has really gotten out of hand. There's just plastics everywhere. And the picture here is you buy a toaster and what do you get? You get all this packaging, you get styrofoam. You can't recycle styrofoam, it just goes into the trash. So extended producer responsibility laws make the producers of the consumer brands responsible for the disposal of their product and its packaging. A law would take the burden off the government to find solutions for trash while also encouraging manufacturers to design products that are easier to recycle, reuse, or dispose of without hazardous materials. EPR laws shift the cost of recycling from the taxpayer to the producer. Similar laws have already been passed in Oregon and Maine in 2021, and Colorado passed a law similar to this in 2022. And I've been hearing a lot more about this. They had this in the Star Tribune just this week. So, and when we were talking to Ramsey County Commissioner, they brought it up. So this is, although there aren't any bills that are moving through. Last year there was a bill that was written on this. I think probably the bill will be moving through maybe next year because they're just really busy this year. The other thing that needs to be done is that there needs to be some environmental standards made on packaging with clear labeling. I know when you try to recycle plastics yourself, because the curbside will take some of them. It's so difficult to read. And sometimes toxins are found within packaging. So if you have toxins like PFAS or formaldehyde or mercury, if that plastic goes from the landfill, now you've got toxins in your landfill. Or if you recycle a plastic that has toxins, and then the new product that you're making from that recycled plastic has toxins. So toxins have to stay out of plastics. So yeah, so a lot of times the EPR bill will have a container deposit component. Container deposits, they're the rock star of recycling. If you go to the grocery store, and you have to pay a deposit on the bottle, yes, you're going to find a way to get your money back. So there are 10 states with bottle deposit laws out there already. And most of the states passed these laws in the 70s and 80s. And I don't know if you remember when I think it maybe even came close in Minnesota one year. But even Iowa has bottle deposit laws. But container deposits increase the rate of recycling, but they have a bunch of other benefits. They reduce the overall cost of waste disposal and recycling collection because people are bringing their recycling to a redemption location. And in most cases, sorting the bottle and cans themselves into a reverse vending machine. An easy to use machine that gives you money in return for placing your bottles and cans. Bottle bills also have the effect of lowering the environmental impact of bottles and cans by mitigating how many bottles and cans are littered or end up in landfills, as well as how many new bottles and cans need to be made. In addition, bottle bills have been shown to create new jobs and businesses as a result of an increase in recycling, necessitating the need for more recycling locations and employees to handle increased demand.
Let's see. I muted myself again. Okay. All right. Our counties, our cities, and the Met Council have important roles or powers to play and to act on climate change. Cities and counties especially make decisions on public policy that affect the environment and greenhouse gas emissions. Public transportation is one of these aspects, of course. There's buses, trains. The counties are especially involved in that. And land use, sometimes our cities are involved. I go to the YMCA in White Bear, and it's got one of these little driverless buses that goes back and forth to several senior residents in a school. So land use is another piece there. The roads and sidewalks, how are they built? Some of them are utilizing some rain gardens, etc., that can help with water, where the water goes afterwards. Basically, parks and trails and green space is another element of what they control. Think of how much land some of them have, and then what land they don't have, perhaps they are issuing permits and controls over. So waste disposal and recycling. I know that happens through my city, and so they're looking carefully at the contracts that we're looking at there. Water, stormwater, surface water, and drinking water are all elements that they frequently are a part of. Most of us probably in this area get our drinking water from underground aquifers, which is usually coming from something that our city pumps up and sends to us. If you're in the southern part of our area, you might be getting it from the St. Paul Regional Water Service. There's also, of course, their own buildings, municipal buildings, and their vehicles. All of these things will have an impact on climate change. Okay, next slide. Okay, so Just last month, there was an interesting presentation on the climate action plan for Ramsey County that was presented. It was kind of our league co-hosted this event. And you can certainly find out more on their website on this too. The board chair, Trista Matas Castillo, and Victoria Reinhardt, Commissioner Reinhardt, were both presented on this. And the rest of the board have identified this as a priority for Ramsey County. Climate change continues to impact the health and well-being of Ramsey County residents, with severity in racial and ethnically diverse and socially economically disadvantaged communities. Ramsey County is committed, this is part of their statement, to leading the migration of and adaptation to climate change, elevating environmental justice, and fighting against the disparate impacts, and particularly in Black and African American, American Indian, and other underrepresented communities across the county. We continue to use see these changes to our local climate, including milder winters, hotter summers, more extreme weather events, and longer allergy seasons. These contribute to basically a lot of things that I just mentioned. So let's go to the next slide. And so one of the things that was interesting that they talked about too is that pretty soon you'll find a new way to recycle your food scraps. Backyard composting has been around for a while. It's not convenient for or available for everyone. So they did start a new food scraps and organic recycling program where they would have kitchen bins, if you will, with little compostable bags that you could put your food scraps in, and then you could bring them to a container in the various communities. That had picked up some speed, but I think they have finally hit the mark here with this next one, in that you're finally going to be able to have it picked up curbside, probably in the next year or 2 years. They just signed a contract to build a large composter, basically. Food scrap pickup service will be available to all residents by the beginning of 2024, and then you'll be able to order your compost bags online and then add them to your weekly trash pickup, and they'll be basically sorted out once they get to the recycling plant.
Stephanie, I just wanted to add here that I'm in LA this winter, and California is really big on this because 15% of methane production is from landfill gases from organic waste. So that's huge.
Yeah,
if we can
it's
all
huge.
reduce that. And they all, here's my little compost bag.
There's your compost bin. Thank you.
That they give them all free to everybody in, the state, and you just have it on your kitchen, and you can put everything in your green bin. So anyway, I just encourage everyone. I mean, I was shocked, 15%, that's huge.
That's a huge amount. Thanks for sharing, Karen. Now, are you able to put that in your trash, or do you need to take it somewhere?
No, actually it goes in our green bin. Here they've got you have your recycling bin, your trash bin, and then you have a green one for garden waste. And
Sure.
It takes everything, meat, bones, pizza boxes, anything that touches food.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for sharing, Karen. So at any rate, this will be basically something that we're looking at for the future. So as mentioned, yes, we're kind of taking a cue from the cows. The food scraps will be used in an anaerobic digester. something like pictured, but kind of a cross between those two, I guess. And it will generate compost, and it will also generate methane gas, which it's my understanding they're going to recycle that back into the plant as a source of energy and to help run the plant that's doing this. So a contract to build these digesters was signed and this is in Ramsey and Washington County recycling site. So just like the cows, the digester will be generating all this, basically resources that are going to be reused. Okay, Kitty's got a new quiz for us.
One last quiz question. True or false? Wasting less food is a way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. True or false? And the answer to that is true. Food loss and waste account for about 8.2 percentage of the total human-made greenhouse gas emissions. You know, that's more than a third of food produced globally never even makes it to the table. Some of this is wasted in food spoils when it spoils in transit. Some consumers throw some of this food out. So it really does all add up. And as was mentioned, any food that gets put into the landfill is producing methane in the landfills. So food waste is a big, important part of this.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about what our counties, Ramsey and Washington County, is doing. Well, our cities are really active in working on climate solutions also. They do comprehensive planning, vulnerability assessments, sustainability plans. They are creating energy action plans, and they can partner with Xcel Energy to help create these plans. There's several other programs that cities are using. One is Resilient Cities and Communities, and that connects cities and governmental authorities and residents to foster resilience to the environment, economic and social stresses. And I even went to one of these meetings one time when I was trying to prepare, think of what to have for this meeting. There's also Minnesota Green Step Cities program, and I will be talking about that a little bit more, and also Climate Smart Municipalities. So cities can learn from each other, and they can collaborate with each other outside of United States also. And the Climate Smart Municipalities, their motto, together we are smarter. And what this is a multi-partner collaboration between Minnesota and Germany with 12 cities and government, nonprofit, business, and academic institutions, including the U of M. And if you're looking at the slide, you can see that White Bear Lake is one of them. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So they have a sister city with, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, Ludenscheid. That's the best I can do right now. But anyway, the program started in 2017, but of course, you know, the pandemic started not that long after that. So that kind of slowed their relationship. But in the beginning, they were really going full gusto. And this relationship accelerated their progress toward a cleaner and more efficient energy footprint. And 2 years ago, Ludenscheid, again, sorry, and White Bear Lake participated in an exchange program to assist the implementation. And our own league member, Joe Emerson, was part of this and went to Germany as part of this exchange. And that was when she was mayor. So It's a grant-funded initiative, and they were exploring such projects as solar panels, charging stations, having an electric fleet. This relationship is still active, and so they're continuing to learn from each other. So probably the main program out there for Minnesota cities to work on their climate change goals is this Green Step program, Green Step Cities program. And this is also a voluntary challenge and assistance, and it's a recognition program to help cities achieve their sustainability and quality of life goals. It's a free continuous improvement program managed by public-private partnership, and it's based on a menu of 29 optional best practices, and they come under the categories of buildings and lighting, land use, transportation, environmental management, resilient economic, and community development. And each best practice can be implemented as decided by the elected officials, staff, and community members by completing one or more actions at a 1, 2, 3 star level. And there's a list, like buildings and lighting will have a list of 4 or 5 different options, actions that they can possibly take. These voluntary actions are tailored to Minnesota cities all over Minnesota, so they're just not like urban city actions. And the first step, there's 5 steps to go. So like I said, there's 5 steps. The first step is just to build community interest and have a program staff visit your community, and also your city council has to have a city council resolution. And the rest of the 4 steps are just implementing and improving an increasing number of best practices. Okay, so here's the list of cities within our White Bear Lake area that are currently working on the Green Step City program. You can see that there's some that have completed, already have gone to step 5. But that doesn't mean that they're necessarily finished with everything, but they've reached what needs to be completed for step 5. There's some that are way farther down. And then you can see that there are some cities, like if you're if you're part of Vadnais Heights, you might notice that your city isn't even on there.
I thought they just voted to join it.
Well, that's what we're talking about next.
Okay.
So good. Since I put that chart together, reason why I brought up Vadnais Heights is that I was looking at the White Bear Press, and yes, Vadnais Heights City Council has voted to join this Gold Leaf pilot program. So it's not the Green Step program, it's a different pilot program, but it has some similar aspects to it. But I mean, the exciting thing for Vadnais Heights, I don't know if there's any members present today that are from that part, but they're now starting to get going on doing some of this. So they'll be working on, there's different actions that they can achieve, climate mitigation, climate planning, adaptation, and basically Columbia Heights is going to, not Columbia Heights, Vadnais Heights is going to be using some of the other communities that are in this program that have already gone to step 5 in their own program, their Green Step program. Okay, so what are other leagues doing? Well, last year, about this time, the State League gave a climate challenge, action challenge. They asked leagues, you know, what you would be willing to do. And they gave kind of an incentive, a $500 incentive to work on some projects. So these 5 leagues were awarded $500. St. Louis Park is working on supporting their city council's climate change initiatives, and also increasing participation in composting in No Mow May. Turns out No Mow May is kind of controversial in some of these cities because cities don't like to have you not mow your grass. So this might be something good to do. The Dakota County League is doing a Earth Matters initiative to reach community through creative messaging about how small actions, when combined together, can make a big difference and help saving our planet. The Bloomington League is increasing their Adopt a Drain program within the city, and they're involving high school students to assist this. The Duluth League is supporting an intern to help organize and coordinate climate change communication and actions, alerts within the area, and to maximize the effectiveness. And then the last league is the St. Cloud Area League. They launched a project called the Grand Canyon Project. And their project is to have congressional representatives receive a phone call every day on climate change concerns. Okay, so yes, in their case, it is a Grand Canyon. It took more than one day to create the Grand Canyon, and it will take more than one day to curb climate change. Who are they calling? Their representative happened to be Representative Emmer or Fischbach. So they designed a call system that they would be called every day, and this was in a 6-month period, so it wasn't quite every day. But anyway, the representatives got 33 calls, and individuals volunteered to do this. And then when they contacted either Emmer or Fischbach, they would, encourage them to work on mitigating climate change. Okay, Steph.
You're muted.
Okay, sorry about that. We've been mentioning a number of ways that to participate. But just to go over a few, and some of these will be put in the notes so that if you want to find out more and go ahead and participate yourself, you can. So you can join the league members on the Capitol lawn to lobby for real action for our future. Campaign, some of these things might include campaign for native lawns. And there's a website through the DNR on that one. Fern mentioned No Mow May. There's bcityusa.org has a lot of information on why this is a good thing. I participated last year. It was great. I found violets I didn't know were there. We survived. It did get mowed in June, but promoting lawns to legumes. This is kind of a naturalizing some of your lawn, putting in ground cover that could restore the soil a little bit rather than grass. You can learn more about that at the website as well, or buy a native plant. I would say one plant is not nearly enough, but you could buy many native plants. They grow well in clusters anyway. Sometimes you can just get seeds at the seed library. You can find out more in our list of another website. Also, native plants can be found in a variety of other places. If you Google it, a number of purveyors who've been out there for decades will gladly hook you up with some native plants. Otherwise, there's some of the local places, usually in June, there's a native exchange where people bring plants in. The Friends plant sale usually has a whole outdoor area that's all natives. Lots of cool stuff there. You could plant a tree. I'm actually hoping to offer a few trees at our annual meeting as kind of a door prize. And if you're interested, you've got a place to put it. We'll maybe you can put your name and email into a hat or something. Post a picture of your lawn, compost pile, etc. on social media. Let's celebrate what we're doing. Let people know that people are trying these things. Just start a new green habit, whatever it is. Pick something else. And so, what are you already doing? And what could you start doing? We'll provide a list of resources for you to learn more about all these issues and the programs discussed today. Believe me, when we were putting this project together, this talk together, it was like chasing rabbits all over the place, going down rabbit holes that you could learn more and more and more about them. But work towards zero waste, composting, food waste, using recyclable, or better yet, reusable containers, or recycle whenever possible. Sustainable clothing. Consider an electric or hybrid cars, or use public transportation when possible. Carpool, that's an old league thing that we have revived occasionally too. Consider solar power, or buy renewable energy credits through your power company. Reduce water consumption, short showers, don't leave the water running, that sort of thing. You've probably heard that before. Don't water your lawns. They're one of our biggest agricultural crops, according to some sources. Change to drought tolerant species. Excuse me, use rain barrel or soaker hoses for gardens, and plant a pollinator garden, perhaps. Oh, speaking of planting trees, a number of years ago, when I was in league, we decided we were going to plant some trees, and I'd like to share with you my 3 evergreens here that have gotten very big. Apologies there. About 1988. These were ones I planted in my backyard. They finally grew past chipmunk size and survived. They've been sequestering carbon for many years now. And so maybe we can start our own little CO2 project and sign up at the annual meeting. So lots of opportunities. Refuse. These are kind of personal actions, kind of changing our mindset on some of this sort of thing. Refuse to buy or accept products that can harm you. They have toxins in them. You become aware of where the toxins are. And the environment used water-based alternatives to chemicals. That's reducing the amount of energy you use. Stick with basic requirements. Buy products in green packaging. Fern was just mentioning a store called Bamboo that basically everything is sustainably grown, or it has minimal packaging, no plastics. And use your own bags at stores. That's an easy one. I throw mine in the back seat right behind the driver's seat, and it's easy to grab them when I go out to the store. Reuse. again, that's kind of those bags too. Slowly replace any single-use items with reusable ones. Like water bottles. I think a lot of us do this already. Reuse shipping containers. Reuse printer cartridges and have them refilled. Or repurpose some things. And making it use it for a separate project at any rate. Lots of possibilities. Plant pots, all sorts of things that could be done with containers. Recycling, of course, too. Recycle all those basics that you can: paper, plastic, metal, glass. Recycle food waste into compost, or as food for a local farm. Recycle all the fabrics, including ripped clothing if you can, and recycle electronics responsibly. And that's so. We'd all like to thank you for being here today. We'd like to open it up for discussion and questions. The handouts are posted in the chat, and also they include some of these resources we've been mentioning if you'd like to learn more about specific issues or programs. So I think we all have what it takes to make a difference, and it's up to us to decide, as Dr. Jane Goodall would say.
Thank you guys so much. That was really, really excellent. In addition to putting all the resources in the chat, could you put them in the members section of the website so that we can download them later?
I think that was the plan, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Oh, thank you. And I just wanted to add, I have a friend who is a dietitian and also an environmental activist, and she's influenced me. So I thought I would just share two things. One, in terms of food waste, the product that has the highest percentage waste from production, from the beginning to the end, is fresh fish. It's like 95% of it is wasted. And so she really encouraged me to switch to frozen fish, where it's frozen on the ship. So that's a very easy change that I've adopted. And there you go. And then the other thing that she's really encouraged us, and I know a lot of countries are really promoting this, is the biggest individual change we can make is in our diet. And I'll put a graph in the chat, which may or may not work. But if you lower the percentage of beef that you're eating or a red meat and have more plant-based diet, you make a huge difference in climate change. So those were the two things that she's really encouraged me to do, and I thought I would share.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Karen.
Does anybody else have anything that they do that maybe you think is a little unique? My daughter works now in sustainability. She actually works for 3M. But since she's working in sustainability, she's walking the talk or talking the walk or whatever. So she became vegetarian. Eating less meat does really help. That is a personal change that you can make. And we had a quiz that we didn't give all the quizzes that we found. We did find a quiz that said that if you're a vegan, that's even more of a, makes a more impact, removing the cheese and the milk and some of those other items which are so delicious. Yes, that would probably reduce some of the greenhouse gas emissions too.
The other thing, this is kind of funny, but I'll just share, I really am trying hard not to use plastics. So my husband went to the grocery store and he texted me and he goes, "What kind of mustard do you want?" And I said, "Any kind of mustard that comes in a glass jar." And there was one. So, and I find myself now when I buy olive oil, I'm tapping all the bottles to see, are they plastic or are they glass? So I just, the companies will put things in plastic because it's lighter and cheaper probably if people don't buy the glass version. So that's something easy to do.
Yeah. Plastic pollution is really bad. And if you would just think of, you go to the grocery store, plastic is everywhere. Everywhere.
Something I haven't done yet, but that I've decided I'm going to do, because when I eat out any place, I always take half of it home. And every time it's in a new plastic container. So I'm going to try to remember to take my own plastic container along. And
very good.
Save
very
some
good.
plastic there.
And then if you go to some restaurants where you get takeout and you're going to eat it maybe in the restaurants, then you have plastic fork and spoon. You could bring your own.
Mhm.
It might be much, but it's a possibility.
Sure.
All my kids carry their own straws.
That's a great one. Too.
Yeah.
Many possibilities.
Another thing that might gross you out for saving water. I remember being in somebody's cabin up north and reading on the wall, "If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down."
Yes,
So you
yes.
can sometimes
Yep.
flush every other time or so.
Yeah.
Yes, and watch what you're putting in the toilet too. Don't be dumping your pills down there, because now the water system is polluted with your medicine. That's not where you throw medicine.
No.
And don't put your plastic dental floss in the toilet either, because those strings get caught everywhere.
I know some of the flushable wipes aren't really flushable. If you talk to one of our other members, Dick Ottman, who worked for many decades for the wastewater treatment plant, and so it may be something to think about. Some say they are, but they don't degrade enough and they get caught.
There's actually a bill in the legislature right now on when something says it's compostable, it really has to be. Because sometimes they'll write compostable on some paper product and it isn't. So there's a bill on that one. Okay, so I guess, are there any announcements? Go ahead, anybody.
Fern,
Yes.
I was wondering, you had mentioned making producers responsible for waste.
Right.
And I remember several years ago, the representative that I had introduced a bill that he couldn't get a hearing on, but it was aimed at pharmaceutical companies taking responsibility for meds that were being thrown away, basically. And of course, the pharmaceutical company fought it quite strongly. But the one thing that came out of that was that it allowed our local communities to collect pharmaceutical medicines that are considered narcotics, whereas before there had to be special procedures. So this is one area where I think, do you know if there's any bill that would aim for that type of responsibility that the producers have to take on.
So last year, there was a bill on this producer responsibility. But this year, there hasn't been one. I think, as you know, Kathy, the legislature is just moving and they want to get some things done. Right. So anyway, they don't have it introduced this year. And also the bottle bill, last year they had one. So I'm hoping they'll keep moving in it. And when states have already, passed those laws, it's just maybe, it might happen here too. So it will help us.
I have a practical question.
Okay.
Has anybody, it's about the composting and maybe directed to Ketty, because you mentioned a bin you can get in Washington County and then return yourself. Does anyone have experience with composting, recycling food waste and how that works out?
Well, in Washington County, like I live out in Matamidi, and you just go into City Hall and they have them there and you can pick it up. And I think there's like 3 or 4 different pickup places that you can get them in Washington County. They give you the bin, they give you the compostable bags, and then there's drop-off spots.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed that one is like a block and a half from my house. So every time I leave, I just take the food scraps with me and drop it off there.
Yeah.
So you just leave the bin sitting outside until you're ready to go drop off? Is that how you do it? Or?
Mine's on my, it has a lid so it seals to help with odor and
Okay.
that sort of thing. I usually have to drop it off probably once a week.
Okay.
In the winter, I leave it out on the porch and that works great. But we're actually gonna put a bigger one in.
Diane, what I do is I leave my little green plastic bin that sounds like Ketty's talking about underneath my kitchen sink. And then when it gets full or smelly, then I tie it up, and I've got then another one of those sort of 5-gallon big heavy duty plastic bins that you can get that's got a snap-on lid. And so then I put the bags in there, and then I can collect 2 or 3 bags and take them all in at the same time.
Yeah.
And that plastic bin is just really rinsable.
Yeah.
So Diane, if you, during the summer months, if you have a yard, a master gardener once told me a really easy thing to do is just dig a hole, plop your veggie scraps in it and fill it up. That's all you have to do.
Oh.
So, that doesn't work for meat or eggs because the critters will get it. But during the summer months, that's what I do. I just go out, find a spot, dig a hole, dump them in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Washington County food scraps, they will take meat, they will take eggs, they will take pizza boxes, napkins, anything that could be composted, you can dump in those bins, which
Yeah.
is a huge amount of the waste.
Yeah.
So I was
And I-
shocked.
And I find when I compost, the only thing left in my waste bag is plastic.
Yeah.
Plastic bags from various food items I've eaten or whatever that, you can't recycle or anything. It's only plastic that's left.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thanks.
okay, so are anything else? I think we're, we,
Maybe the date of our annual meeting, I think that's
oh.
the 2nd,
April 20th, isn't it?
20th?
April 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is April 20. I think I've got it written down. It starts at 5 p.m. It's over at Boat Works Common. And that's where it was held last year. And the league board is putting together a delicious dinner. And I don't know, Barb, do you want to talk about our speakers or not share that yet? Leave that to be excitement.
I would love to share because
Okay.
we have in our White Bear Lake area membership 2 former mayor, one current newly elected mayor of Shoreview by the name of
Sue.
Susan.
Sue. Oh my gosh. And she's being introduced by a former mayor, Joe Emerson.
We'll have her last name. Yeah. I don't remember it either.
And they're going to
That's really
be
neat.
short presentations so that our meeting doesn't run terribly long, but it's going to be a delightful meeting. And we're awarding the revolving White Bear Award too. So lots to come for.
And register by the 12th.
Yes,
Yes.
that's very important.
Yes.
And
And you will
ordering
get a
the food.
nice bear facts too, so. On this, lots of
Yes.
details. Okay. So I thank you so much for coming. Having to plan this meeting inspired me to do all these other things that I would have never done. And so it kind of changed my life for quite a few months there. So thank you so much.
Very well done, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
all of you. Yes, wonderful.
Wonderful program.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Any other comments from you, Fern or Ketty?
No.
Great job, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was fun.
It's, this is a really big topic.
Yes.
But we covered it and anyway, next year we'll do something else, maybe.
Maybe.
So,
I had a question that I put in the chat
Oh, good.
and I have to go back and look at it. Okay. Ramsey County, I think, collects our garbage and takes it to a burner where they burn it and make energy. I think that's the case. So I want to know
Yeah,
if burning garbage qualifies as carbon-free energy production.
no.
No.
No. And they're gonna have to get rid of that burner.
no, what they do, can I comment on that? Because I've been to the facility.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead, Dick.
Ramsey, Washington County takes it to Newport, which is right
Yep.
on the border, just south of St. Paul on the Mississippi River. And they grind up all the garbage and they have a burning fraction, which is the lighter stuff. All of the aluminum, steel, etc., and glass, that ends up getting reused and recycled. And the stuff, the 10% that's heavy and garbage, that ends up getting landfilled. But all the lighter fraction ends up getting generating power. And it still generates some pollution because some has the plastics in it.
Yeah.
And when you burn plastics, but there isn't anything good about plastic. Okay, put it this way. I'm on a campaign against plastic, so I buy very little plastics. And I can't, in federal court or any court, I couldn't justify ever generating just the minimal amount that I need. Aluminum and glass, most of the energy to make aluminum is making it, and you're getting almost, you only have to generate about 10% to reuse it again, both aluminum and glass. So you're already starting with good product. Plastic is a mess, and it ends up scattered all over the world, and you end up eating it. I hate to break that to you, but
Yeah.
it's what you do. And I finally have the people here, they got rid of their styrofoam containers they had for people to put their food in our senior building. And I finally got them to get rid of that. And that was a major improvement here. And they complained about it bitterly, but because it's cheaper to put it in a styrofoam container. And I just said, we can't do that anymore. So,
Yeah.
and so that's what happens to your garbage. The sewage, while I have the floor, I worked in the business for a long time. And it saves money doing what they're doing, and they're using less and less energy. And there's energy in the sewage, more energy in the sewage than energy used to treat the sewage. And the goal is always to get it to carbon neutral. And we're working on that. And it was quite close the last time I checked. But they generate their own electricity, they generate their own heat, etc. By using the solids from the sewage. So that you left out of your story, but most people don't know what the Met Council Environmental Services does anyway. It's just so far below the radar.
Yes,
but
we left out Met Council.
Yeah, it saves money when you end up looking at it. It saves operating costs over time. So that's why how they justified it. Plus, it's the right thing to do. So.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dick, for sharing. That's
Thank
good.
you.
We at least put Met Council on one of the slides.
Mhm.
A big topic to cover in an hour.
That's another whole session.
That's a whole session. And we don't even have a Met Council meeting this year. So Dick, if you can think of a really great one for next year, let me know.
There is the Council on Metropolitan Area Leagues, which has a presentation every month, and I'm on the committee. But I'm in a very far back position. I'm not an officer or anything because of my political involvement. I cannot do anything where you have my name on anything.
Yeah.
They would accuse us of partisan organization. So I can't have my name on anything. So
yeah.
No, but maybe there's a topic, Dick, that we could discuss for a program for next year.
Yeah, there's
You
plenty.
can think about it.
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah.
So, okay, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I'm on the city's Environmental Advisory Commission, and every year we have a environmental resource fair. I'd invite you guys to come to that. It's the last week of July at Market Fest, and come on down and visit us. I know Stephanie's been there before with Flaumo. And usually they show up and have a booth and stuff. We have Pollinator Friendly Alliance, Zero Waste people. We have climate advocates, climate and so on. But I just wanted to. We had a little reference to No Mow May, and we've had that discussion in our commission, and. About whether or not we want to promote that in White Bear Lake. And the issue we're running into is that when if you have No Mow May and you're doing it, you're letting dandelions grow in your yard to, for the bees to come in and use that early in the season. Unfortunately, then you're promoting dandelions, which are blowing into your neighbor's yard, and he or she's out there spraying it with pesticides. So it creates kind of a, we're debating about whether or not that's something we want to promote or not, because then it promotes maybe more pesticide or herbicide use. I shouldn't say pesticide, but herbicide use. And so I think we're better off, as like Stephanie had mentioned, having other like lawns to legumes and things like that, and different types of low water use plants in your yard than No Mow May. And also, I just wanted to mention that the school, the White Bear Lakes Environmental Club, is selling saplings also. They're trying to, this is at the high school, and it was in the White Bear Press a couple weeks ago, and they're selling, if you go online, it's their environmental club, and it's like $5 for a sapling, I think, and they're trying to sell 440 saplings, which would let's see, where does it say? The goal is to offset their annual paper consumption at the high school by selling 440 saplings. So if you got a space in your yard for a plant, that's another resource. So
You just put the link to that in the chat. if anybody's interested.
Thanks, Kenny. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Good stuff.
Yes.
Steph-
Go ahead.
Stephanie? Oh, Stephanie, I guess I was just, I know you mentioned things about support for, communities that marginalized communities, and it sounds like maybe housing and things like that, but would it, I know there's so many of the housing apartments in places where people live, but they're by roads and they're by, I don't know how you do anything about that, by close, busy streets and roads and highways, and will there be some?
It's challenging. You're absolutely right, Jane.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be creative, I guess. I have seen some places where they've added vertical vegetation walls that add a fair amount of green to the area, can help with making it, a little more livable feeling. Not all roofs can support some roof gardens, but that's another possibility too. If they're, if they're strong enough, structurally strong enough, they could potentially do that. Sometimes there's the possibility of at least tucking in a rain garden somewhere, and which could have native vegetation in it. Doesn't have to be big. It could be something that could, say, take the runoff from half of the parking lot or something like that. We did that at St. Mary of the Lake and White Bear, and there's a rain garden there that does basically takes the runoff from their parking lot, and which isn't that big, but it all helps. So there's a few possibilities, but yeah, it's a challenge.
I guess my one thought about everybody driving singly too. I wish there would be a tax on people. Me included, if I'm driving along and there's one person in the car. I look at everybody who's driving and it's like there's one person in the car. So how can we capture that?
That. I know.
I don't know.
I don't know entirely. It would be nice if we had that that public transit system that went the places we want to go to and where we need to go.
Yeah.
Shannon, did you have something or no? No? Okay. Okay, well, I think, thank you, folks. Thanks for some good discussion and adding to it. And yeah, if you've got a place in your yard, if you have a yard, or if you know someone who has a yard, maybe we can get a few more trees planted.
So we'll be putting the presentation on our website, and either the recording for today or yesterday. So we'll have to decide which one we prefer. They're different. They're different. The discussion is entirely different, and it's so great, Gary and Dick, and that you had that side of what's going on. That really is an added bonus.
Sure, maybe we'll have to do some video editing and put the discussion from both into a single file. We can do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did a good job.
Professional PowerPoint.
Oh yeah, well you can thank Petty for that. She was
the PowerPoint wizard.
Yeah,
wow.
I needed the
See
practice.
how fast she is. You ask a question, Becky, she's got it.
She
can look it up before you
pull
can
up the
even.
information.
It's just amazing.
Before we get to
So
the
anyway.
next slide.
Very
Okay.
impressive. Very good.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so
Yeah.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.